You need to buy Bitcoin before it's too late. Yes, the markets look depressed at the moment, and we saw this dump all the way back down, breaking the psychological level of 25,000 US dollars, and we came all the way into this major support box round about the 24,800 US dollars. But at the moment, we saw this bounce from these levels. But what does it mean? Are we going to dump even lower and come all the way back to the 20,000 US dollar level? Because yes, on the one side, we have this major crackdown from the SEC, but guys, this is all just the major plan to get you out of the crypto market, because if we look at the bullish sentiment that we can see in the overall crypto market, yes, we could expect a massive pump towards the upside, and buying in these areas would be the last opportunity to buy Bitcoin at these lows. So if you want to find out more, make sure to watch the video until the end, smash up the like button and subscribe, and most importantly, activate the bell so that you always stay up to date. So first of all, we're going to look at this chart, but guys, at the end of the video, we're going to look at the technical analysis for Bitcoin to find out what is going to happen in the immediate short term, and are we going to hold the 25,000 US dollar level. So guys, yes, if we look at this graph, we can see at the top, at the all-time high of Bitcoin, we saw this news, Bitcoin's big day on Wall Street. And what happened afterwards? Yes, we saw this dump towards the downside, and at the moment, the overall market sentiment for Bitcoin is now might be a good time to consider quitting crypto. So yes, we need to think outside the box. Is it the best time to sell your crypto? No, definitely not. If we go over to the next news, BlackRock nears Bitcoin ETF filing, partnering with Coinbase custody. So this is a major step for adoption for the overall crypto market. And why? Yes, BlackRock, the asset management company with a staggering 9 trillion under its control, is said to be on the verge of applying to a Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, which is normally pegged to the price of a certain commodity or asset. So that means actually if you hold an ETF, you're participating in the price movement in comparison to a spot ETF where actually a custodian like Coinbase custody needs to hold the asset. So this is going to be a major step for Bitcoin if we're going to see a spot Bitcoin traded ETF by BlackRock, and all these coins are being held by Coinbase custody. So this actually means that yes, they need to buy this asset so that they can offer this Bitcoin spot ETF to their clients. But let's go over to the next news article. BlackRock's filing for a spot Bitcoin ETF signals a turning point in the industry. As a prominent player in the traditional finance space, yes, we can see that BlackRock holds a lot of companies and has the biggest assets under management, and being such a big company, this actually means that they're actually controlling the whole financial sector, acknowledges the potential of Bitcoin. If approved, the Bitcoin ETF would open doors to a new wave of adoption and provide investors with an unprecedented opportunity to participate in the Bitcoin market through a regulated and accessible investment vehicle, being BlackRock with their spot Bitcoin ETF. And this means, guys, yes, maybe it's not going to help you and me as retail investors because we can buy and hold Bitcoin, the real underlying asset, but this is going to open the door for a lot of institutions and big money that is going to enter the Bitcoin space. Because if we look at BlackRock with 9 trillion, nearly 10 trillion under management, if we're only going to see 1% of all these funds flow into Bitcoin, we could expect a massive pump. But now we want to find out what we could expect if yes, this Bitcoin spot ETF will be approved. And if we go back in history and we look at this chart, this was on the 1st of November 2004 where the first gold ETF got listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And we saw this massive pump towards the upside for the price movement of gold because this major influx from investors' money and also major capitals were pumped into the price of gold. But if we're going to see the spot Bitcoin ETF, this means that the custodian, being Coinbase custody, needs to actually buy all of these assets. So this is going to be a major step for the Bitcoin adoption. And this is also the bullish sentiment that we can see in the overall markets. But what is going to happen with this major lawsuit from the SEC and this major crackdown from the United States? We simply can't know the long-term consequences of a war on innovation. It is simple to see that it will chase the top-level developers out of an economy, discouraging anyone who sees adoption as a means of dealing with the challenges we face as a global society. In short, stifling innovation is a loose proportions, and that is the direction the US is going when it comes to decentralized finance. And yes, this is the major concern that we are seeing at the moment. The SEC and the United States are pushing all of the crypto banks, developers, and the innovation and the technology out of the country. But what is going to happen? Yes, this is quite a shocker, or not actually a shocker, because we know this coin is going to zero, the US dollar eventually will collapse, Yellen finally admits the inevitable, expects a slow decline in the US dollar as the reserve currency, and if we see that the politicians use the word slow, transitory or minor problem, we know it is exactly the opposite. Slow, meaning we're seeing a drastic fall in the US dollar being the reserve currency. We're at the end of an empire, a global dominance, not speculation, inevitably. So yes, we're going to see that the US dollar will lose grip about all the financial systems and tools, or even losing their proposition as a world reserve currency. But let's go over and find out why we see that yes, the Bitcoin adoption is still going to take place, and we don't need the United States for Bitcoin adoption because Bitcoin is global. And yes, on the other hand, we can see Russia's biggest banks, Sberbank, to allow trading of digital assets in June. So this is going to be a major step because Russia is going to take the next leap forward, and they actually want to launch a Russian-based crypto exchange. So this is going to drive the adoption. And if we go over, yes, we can see Bank of China, BOCI, issues tokenized securities on Ethereum in Hong Kong. So yes, we're seeing that China is taking the next step to also adopt Bitcoin after they have banned it. And Hong Kong pushes HSBC and Standard Chartered to embrace crypto clients. The Hong Kong monetary authorities urges prominent banks to engage with crypto exchanges to stimulate the digital asset industry. So yes, we can see that America is pushing all of the crypto exchanges and also the crypto related banks out of the country, and yes, Russia and Hong Kong is driving the technology, and this is going to drive the price of Bitcoin. Remember what happened after we saw the approval of a gold ETF? We saw that the price of gold went skyrocketing. So this is also what we could expect for Bitcoin, because yes, on the one side we have got this major crackdown on the crypto markets from the US, but on the other side we're getting this bullish sentiment in the overall market, and this is my major concern. If I look at the price movement of Bitcoin and we saw this decline, and the overall market sentiment is telling the peoples to get out of crypto market, and that we're going to see a lower price and even come back to the 20,000 US dollar level, yes, maybe we're going to do that, but this is just going to give you the opportunity to buy Bitcoin even lower. But what is going to happen if you're going to wait for this opportunity to buy Bitcoin at 20,000 US dollars? We're going to see the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF, or we're going to see that Russia and the Asian market is getting into the crypto space, and we're going to see that Bitcoin will turn around in these regions, and that we're going to say, yes, this is Bitcoin, we're going to break this major resistance. First of all, let's look at the price movement, and yes, we came all the way back down to this major support round about the 24,800 US dollars, and at the moment we saw this bounce. But if we look at the weekly chart, then yes, we can see that the price movement from the beginning of the year saw this massive pump towards the upside. Then we got this FUD, came all the way back down to this major support at 19,490, where we got a lot of support and resistance, and the price bounced back up, and we saw this massive pump over the 200 moving average on the weekly chart, and the price saw this consolidation, and here we got this major pressure from the SEC lawsuit against Binance, Coinbase, the crackdown on the major securities, and the US markets trying to hold the US dollars in their country and to convert your cryptocurrencies into US dollars by this major crackdown from the exchanges. But guys, we saw that the price movement went down. Yes, we dumped from the high we had here all the way back down to this low. We dumped 20%, but with all this FUD, 20% towards the downside is just a normal consolidation and a sideways movement. So with all this FUD couldn't bring the price of Bitcoin underneath the 20,000 US dollar level. I don't believe that this is going to happen, and we could expect to turn around in these regions. But let's go on the lower time frames on the daily chart. So yes, we can see that we have been in this downward sloping channel, and that the price movement is forming lower highs, and we came all the way back down into this major support. We bounced exactly from this trend line that we can see on the weekly chart, where we perfectly bounced off from this dip we had over here, and now we came back to this very important line, and also the bottom trend line from this descending channel. So what could we expect? Are we going to see this pump all the way back up to the top of this range, and that we're going to break out towards the upside? First of all, it is really going to be important that we're going to hold this support, which is round about the 24,700 US dollars, but ultimately we need to stay above the 25,000 US dollar to really say, yes, Bitcoin is trying to attempt to reach the top of this trend line before we could expect the next breakout. And the next breakout, we should see the price of Bitcoin forming a higher high. And this means we have to break this very important 28,000 US dollar level and form a higher high for Bitcoin to really say that yes, we could turn around in these regions, but ultimately holding these levels is going to be the first signal that we could expect a higher price movement for Bitcoin. But let's go over to the dollar currency index to find out what is the dollar doing at the moment. And yes, you could remember from my previous video that the dollar is in this very important range where we saw this support. And yes, the dollar broke this very important level and we came all the way back down to the 102 level. So yes, if we're going to see that the dollar currency index will go even lower and that we're going to break this major support, guys, we could expect that Bitcoin is going to break this major level round about the 28,000 US dollar level and that we could expect the next pump for Bitcoin. But let's go on the lower time frames. So on the 4-hour chart, these are going to be our very important levels. We could see that the price movement perfectly bounced off from this downward sloping trend and the bottom trend of this channel, and now it's really important that Bitcoin needs to form higher highs and also higher lows, and that we could expect that the price movement will see a consolidation and that we're going to attempt to break this very important level. So first of all, we need to break this trend line towards the upside, and Bitcoin has to stay above this major resistance that we have been forming all the way in these regions. But guys, this is not going to be easy, but ultimately I think that Bitcoin will consolidate in these regions and that this has been the low for Bitcoin. And that's why, yes, we're getting a lot of FUD in the markets, but the overall sentiment for Bitcoin couldn't be any better. So if you want to buy Bitcoin on the spot market or trade it on a leverage market, go down in the video description below and sign up with my BITGET link where you receive a massive deposit bonus. And guys, make sure to be for crypto, and we see each other in the next video.